All right, people, the debate, number 2, it just ended. Did they shake hands? I missed it. Did anyone see if they shook hands? We don't know if they shook hands. They didn't shake hands at the beginning, which was extremely tense. So there's obviously a lot to talk about. First off, I want to know what you guys are drinking. We're going beer here tonight. I was beer last time, did some wine. There might have been some vodka last time, a little tequila here and there. But I want to know what you guys are drinking. What's the drink of choice? What was the drinking game that people do for these things? So there's a lot to talk about here. I would highly recommend for those of you watching right now to tell your friends to watch this or something like this rather than watching CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or the network coverage where they're just going to put on campaign surrogates right now. And guess what? You're not going to believe this, guys. I'm an insider. I know this kind of stuff. The Hillary people, the Hillary supporters, the people that like Hillary, the people that used to work for Hillary, that now work for the networks, they're going to say Hillary won. And the people that work for Trump or that used to work for Trump or that are on the networks as the Trump surrogates, they're all going to say that Trump won. Just trust me. You've got to trust me on this. I just have a strong feeling about it, and I've been right every time. It's incredible. Anyway, so you guys can, I've got the team here, the Rubin Report team. We've got 3 people and a dog. We are monitoring computers. There's several computers here. There's iPads and iPhones, all kinds of things. So you can ask me questions in the comment section right down below, or you can tweet at me because I know the comments here on the YouTube get a little nutty, especially after a debate when people have been drinking. Although I did see right before I jumped in here live that somebody said, wow, the Rubin Report comment section is not a shit show. That's really the nicest thing that you can say about a comment section. Okay, so let's start with the obvious stuff, the first 20 minutes, and of course everything that's led us up to this in the last 24 hours. So, you know, look, the tape of Trump and Billy Bush came out. He said some gross stuff. It's just gross stuff. Guys say that kind of stuff. It's hard, you know, there's a difference between words and action. So if these are just words, just things that guys say behind closed doors or that girls say or that gay dudes say or whoever says, there's a difference between just saying shit privately and what your actions actually are. So this is on shit that he said. It was pretty gross, actually, the stuff that he was saying. Although I think one of the things that really got glossed over in this whole thing, and I don't really know the work of Billy Bush. He's not in my wheelhouse, although I think it's kind of funny that a guy named Billy Bush was taken down by pussy. But, oh, you're right. They don't want me to say pussy as much anymore. No more pussy. Here we go. But the thing that was interesting was, so they have this whole, you know, conversation in the bus, and then they meet the woman outside. And after all of that, Billy Bush says to the woman, "Why don't you hug him?" Which that seemed actually more gross and offensive than the things that Trump said, which actually were gross and offensive. Anyway, the point is that what you say privately, and I would say this for anyone, what any of us say in the privacy of our own home. And by the way, I think it's actually kind of funny that all of these people, all of these pundits and all of these TV people that have, you know, they have mics on them all the time. And I know what that's like. I've been on things online mostly, but I've even been on television things where people's hot mics have been left on. And you just forget. Things go to commercial breaks and you could say shit. Now I'm not defending any of the things that people say, but I'm sure that I have said things. I'm not talking about racist things or something like that, but I'm sure I've said things that I wouldn't want other people to know. I can actually think of an instance, 100%. I was once, when I was working at TYT, they left the mic on during a break, and I started talking shit about some guy I was in high school with who was this like kind of bully guy, whatever, that I didn't like, and how I saw him at my reunion, he was a loser, and I was so happy about it. And I'm talking shit about this guy, and I said his name, and then I saw people tweeting at me that my mic was on. So shit like that happens, and what you say privately is not necessarily what you would say publicly. That doesn't excuse it, but there's a difference between just words and actions. So that's number one. So anyway, so the beginning of the debate, the first 20 minutes, now, of course, you guys all know that Trump had the 4 women there. And, you know, one thing that I think is really interesting about the 4 women, look, I don't know, and I don't think you know, what Bill Clinton did or didn't do. But we live in a time when people are accused of rape all the time and lives are destroyed. And whether it was sexual assault or rape or whatever you want to call it, although he was a man of incredible power, which complicates what I think the definition of rape might be. But the point is that these women have been pretty much ignored and mocked and forgotten about. And I was shocked, and it was actually kind of disgusting to see the way people were kind of dismissing them all day long. People on the left, on the media, were just dismissing them. Now, I get it. Trump is using them for his own purposes, without question, he's doing that. And just the fact that we were all focused on rape and sexual assault before a presidential debate and that they're there, this isn't how it's supposed to be. You know, this is not really, we'll get into some of the ideas that they talked about over the course of the hour and a half, but this isn't, we're supposed to be having a real debate about ideas. That's what this really should be about, and unfortunately it really isn't. It's become about all this other stuff. So anyway, so I see some questions rolling in, so I'll just do a little more recap of the beginning thing, then I'll stop for questions and then jump ahead. So what I would say is the first 20 minutes were incredibly, they were hostile, and it felt weird. Didn't you feel like, it kind of felt weird, like in my heart, it felt weird. And I think most people think that. There was this feeling, you know, with the way they were kind of walking around each other, and you knew how much tension was there. And Bill Clinton was sitting up there, and the women were there, and all of this stuff. And it's like, at the same time, Trump was clearly trying to be controlled and somewhat apologetic. I don't think any of it comes off as particularly sincere, but you know, the first 20 minutes, like it was sort of like, whoa, where is this thing gonna go? Like, is this gonna eat up the whole thing? But then it ended up not, and they got into some substantive stuff. The moderators, I'd say, you know, generally I would be for not having moderators and let them actually debate. You know, every time a moderator jumps in and says, "Oh, don't interrupt him," or "You didn't interrupt him when he interrupted you," and "You didn't." It's like, we need a debate, not a canned question and an answer and a response. You need to debate ideas. These things, Google the word debate. These things are not, this was a town hall, but these things are not really debates. We need to have them battling the ideas out while looking at each other, not just talking to somebody else off there. That would be much harder to do. So anyway, so in terms of just one loss, and then I'll get some questions. So look, everyone goes, who won, who lost in the Twitter polls and blah, blah. A win and a loss, the truth of the win and the loss is only if someone changed their mind because of this. Whether you think Trump did better or you think Hillary did better, it is irrelevant unless a certain amount of people change their minds during the course of this. I think all Trump basically had to do, the bar was so low because of everything that's happened the last couple of days, is that he just didn't have to implode, and he didn't implode. I think he had a couple nice moments, which I'll get to in a little bit. He didn't implode, and she didn't make him implode. Hillary, what she had to do was keep going. You know, it's just, she has to stay the course and not just derail for some crazy reason. But Trump didn't implode, and that's pretty much all he had to do to keep this thing marching down the road, and we're 30 days out now. So let me jump on a couple questions, and then we'll go from there. Let's see. Dave, what do you think about taxation on the wealthy? So people have asked me about this a bunch, and I've talked about it a little bit more, and I absolutely will get some more economists on the show. My general rule is that people should have lower taxes so you have more money in your pocket so that you can make the choices with your money, with what you want to do with it. You know, the government always has money for war, right? They never run out of money for bombs. So it's not that they need more money. I would like a slimmer, trimmer government, and you should be able to spend your money as you see fit. So we have to uncomplicate the tax code. I saw this morning, I think our tax laws are something like 3.8 million words. Do you think anyone has really read this thing? So some guy somehow got figured out to count the words. I doubt he even read it all. But something in like Germany and France, I think they said they have less than 10% of the words. Not that it's about the word count per se, but so we have to simplify it. So I would be for something that would be like, you don't pay, and again, I'm not an economist, but I would be for something along these lines, basically. If you make under $50,000, you don't have to pay taxes. Just let's let you save your money properly so you can try to get ahead and whatever. Then above that, I would do a flat tax basically for pretty much everybody until say $10 million. And you put it at like 15% or something, but you figure out what the right percentage is. And then until you make $10 million, anyone from 50 to 10 million, that's pretty much everybody, pays 15%. And then above 10, yeah, maybe you notch that up to 20, and then above, say 50 million, you pay 25%. I don't know, something like that. So yes, if you're at the tip of the top, you can pay more into the system. And you know, the people at the top do pay most of the taxes right now. They get most of the benefits of that, of course. So I would be for something that protects the people at the bottom, so you don't have to pay taxes. If you're making under 50, and I had many, many, many years of my life, for more years than I'd like to admit that I was making less than 50, you don't have to pay taxes. And then above that, you figure out some flat tax with a little bit of a scale on it to weigh out when people are making mega money. So that's what I would be for on that. if you guys want to yell out like particularly good ones, go ahead, because I see this thing blowing up here. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, got it. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. 2 debates and 0 global warming questions. We passed 400 PM carbon this year, so we're basically at the point of no return. Why is this being discussed? Of course we should be discussing this. And this is a damn shame. We're wasting so much time on nonsense. And this is, when I talk about the battle of ideas, this is what I'm talking about, that we have to have honest conversations about these things. And you guys know, on my show, I've had Michael Mann, who's one of the leading climate scientists in the entire world from Penn State University, who came up with the hockey stick theory that basically we're getting to the point where our explosion of global warming is going to be so fast because of the combination of what we're putting out there and what's there and the greenhouse effect and all that. And then I've also had Alex Epstein on, who wrote a book called The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels, who basically claims that climate change is a hoax and all that. I try to talk to both people on both sides on this. I got a ton of shit, maybe more shit than I've ever gotten for anything, even more than talking to Milo by talking to Alex Epstein. And they absolutely should be talking about this. It's whether you want to believe it or not. I'm not a scientist. So as I said to Alex Epstein on the show, if 97% of the scientists, if 97% of the experts in this field believe it, then who am I to tell them they're wrong? All of us make decisions based on people that know more about us coming to some sort of consensus. That's how everything moves forward. So how could I pretend that it's not real just because it makes me feel better? Now that doesn't mean that all of the things that the government does to make us go green, like Solyndra and some of the other subsidies that they've done, are right, because they're definitely not. And they're not necessarily good financially, and maybe not even environmentally. But we have to figure out the right way to talk about this stuff.
There's a question from Patreon there.
All right, somebody on Patreon. So yeah, if you are on Patreon, if you comment on the Patreon feed, we'll give you top priority over here. As you guys know, we are fan funded. So it's patreon.com/Rubin Report or rubinreport.com/donate. And we're building out some interesting things with the show that we're going to let you know in the next week or two. So I'm very excited about that. And yeah, we're fully funded, meaning by you guys. And you guys know there's issues with YouTube's monetization right now, coming for certain people and all that kind of stuff. So you guys have allowed me to speak my mind freely. And as I said, I think at the last one of these that we did, if CNN came to me, I got it on over in the background over here. Oh, there's Gloria Borger. The woman has never said anything interesting ever. Even if CNN came to me tomorrow and said, here's $3 million, which obviously would be a lot more than I'm making right now. I love what I'm doing. I love that I can connect directly to you and build this awesome team that I have here and do some of the things that we're about to announce and all that. So it's very cool what you guys have enabled us to do, and I hugely appreciate it. Okay, why do you think liberals ignore Bill Clinton's rape accusations? It's incredible to me. Oh man, it's such a shame that we have to focus on this, but I think it's a legitimate question, and that's what I was alluding to earlier, that it's sad that whether these allegations are true or not, there are several women that don't seem like they have much to gain right now, that are in their, probably, I would guess they're all in their 60s or so, that don't have much to gain financially through this, that something seems to have happened, I'm not a mind reader. Unlike so many people in the news, I don't read minds. So unfortunately, the left right now, when it comes to this, is completely excusing it because they see Trump as the #1 evil. So because of that, that's overriding that in this case. I talk about the Oppression Olympics all the time. Their hatred of Trump is overriding their care of women in this particular case. So I saw plenty of journalists who I know and comics who I know and people who I respect that were all sort of being extremely dismissive, and people on CNN and everything else, extremely dismissive of these women. Now, again, Trump was using them for his own tactics. I don't think Trump particularly cares about these women other than for his own political means, but that seems to be the world we live in at the moment. So, so it's really unfortunate. So I guess, I don't know what we could do as a country to move forward on this. Like if there was some real evidence, and if Hillary actually, some of these women, I think Juanita Broderick specifically, accuses Hillary Clinton of silencing her. So if it happened, and Hillary, if there was some evidence, some tape or something that was leaked of Hillary actually trying to silence or threaten these women or something, then you have something. But for now, that stuff, the bus stuff, what he said, grab him by the pussy, which doesn't work, by the way. I went to Starbucks and I tried to grab some girl by the pussy, did not work. That, you know, it's just a sideshow. It's just a sideshow. So, all right.
There was this question from Patreon.
Yeah, another one from Patreon, then I'll jump back into YouTube. Hey, Dave, do you think the Supreme Court appointments would be the biggest point for the Democrats? It seems like the whole wait for the election position doesn't have a leg to stand on. Hillary doesn't capitalize it on much, and maybe she ought to. So the interesting thing about the Supreme Court, now look, first off, we have an opening right now that the Republicans have just kicked down the road, which they're not supposed to do, and they are not voting on Obama's nominee. So once again, this is partly what led to the rise of Trump, actually. A Republican Congress that refuses to do anything. So the Trump people are pissed at the Republicans too. I think, you know, the thing with the Supreme Court is, look, the Supreme Court in the last couple of years, well, first off, we'll talk about the big one. So abortion. I'm personally pro-choice. I don't like abortion. I wish we could find ways to help women that are pregnant and don't want to carry the child. I wish we could find ways to do more with adoption, or some other ways that we can figure out something so that they don't have to abort these children. And we have to have an honest conversation about when does life actually start. I mean, if you think it starts the second the sperm touches the egg, I'm not a real believer in that, but by 3 months that you probably have some sort of viable thing and viable life form, and that sounds like an alien, but you have some sort of viable life, and that should be protected at some level. But look, all of these politicians that are against abortion, so when Mike Pence tells you he's really against abortion, I would suspect that if Mike Pence's daughter was raped, which obviously would be horrific, and if she was impregnated, well, I would suspect that they would somehow find out a way for her to get an abortion. So, and I think that stands to reason for most of these guys. So I would ultimately let a woman choose what to do with her own body, but I would acknowledge that we are talking about a life. And that's why we have to have an honest conversation about it. So when people on the right say that the left, liberals hate children or the unborn, and when people on the left say that people on the right hate women, it's so stupid. It's incredibly insulting to our intelligence and stupid. But look, that's an important Supreme Court question. Look, gay marriage was made into federal law because of the Supreme Court, because of equal protection under the law. So that's obviously something that's important to me, and I wouldn't want the Supreme Court to flip that. As a general rule, you know, law freedoms, once they get out of it, once the thing is ripped, right, once the dam is broke and the water is pouring, it's hard to get that back into the cup. So I don't think that we would take away freedoms, but there is a risk, I think, of changing the makeup of the Supreme Court that would be somewhat risky, I think, with Donald Trump, because now suddenly he's hedging again on the gay marriage thing. Although I don't see how that would get up to the Supreme Court again. But his abortion stance, he's a New York guy, and Lord knows what he's done in his life. So the idea that he would be against abortion, which I'm not sure, he's not really making it a big issue, but it sounds like he's kind of pandering for that again. You know, the thing about Trump is I think he's just pandering to everybody. So I don't think he believes any of the stuff that he's saying to most people. So maybe there's a silver lining in that somehow. Somebody said, do you ever think a rise of the libertarian right will ever dominate the Republican Party? Well, look, this is my biggest disappointment. Believe it or not, Trump and Clinton are not my biggest disappointments in this election cycle. By the way, note my Rose Farms Cozy from my favorite farm in Missouri. Check it out. So my biggest disappointment in this election actually isn't Trump or Clinton, which obviously are both disappointing. My biggest disappointment is that the libertarians had a chance this time. And that's why a few months ago, you guys saw that I did that video about Gary Johnson, how I wanted him to get to 15%. And let's see some libertarian ideals there about lower taxes and limited government and strong military so that you don't have to use it, and not caring about gay marriage and not caring about marijuana. Why would you ever? What right does the government have to tell you? You have cancer, you have AIDS, you have some Parkinson's or something. What right does the government have to tell you if something is going to help you survive, help you deal with your pain, and you're going to let the government tell you what to do? Bullshit. And guess what? Again, it's like the abortion thing before. Every single one of these politicians would do anything that they could do if they were in pain or their children are in pain. So don't let them tell you that you can't smoke weed if it's going to help you. And guess what? Forget even medicinal marijuana. If you want to smoke weed and chill out on this IKEA couch, maybe I've done it once or twice, guess what? That's okay too. So the disappointment with Gary Johnson is that I wanted him in there just so people could hear some libertarian ideas, some classic liberal and libertarian ideas. Let's base policy on rationality and logic and reason and all that good stuff. And unfortunately, Gary Johnson, and I said this in my initial thing, he's not a great candidate. He's not particularly well-spoken. He fumbles over himself a lot. He sounds like a cartoon character. He's not a great libertarian. He was for forcing the baker in Indiana to bake the gay marriage cake. I mean, this is just silly for a libertarian. Let the market decide. Guess what? Go to a different baker. Use your dollar to vote, right? And then there are a couple others. And then the Aleppo thing and a bunch of other gaffes that he's had. So I wish the libertarians had a better standard bearer for their message. I think that the best move that could have happened to them would have been that Rand Paul would have said, you know what, I've had it with the Republicans. I see the writing on the wall. I was one of the 17 at the beginning of this thing with Trump, but I didn't even have a chance. So let me be the libertarian. But you know what? He wants to stay a senator. And if he's going to stay a senator, he has to stay a Republican. So everyone covers their own ass. That's just the way it is. But I think that was the disappointment for me about the libertarians, or that a real classic liberal party would evolve out of the Democratic Party. I think that would be nice too. But I do think what's happening here is, look, we're watching the Republican Party completely split, right? The Republican Party is now splitting into the Trumps, the conservatives, and then the libertarians on the far side of it. Not far right as much as just sort of the fringe part of it. But the Trump people and the classical people that are thought of as the conservative party, these are two parties right now. They're not the same party. And you could just look at all the people, all the senators, Republican senators and congressmen who dropped Trump yesterday. That's just proof of it. On the left, I sense this crumbling too. There is a huge difference right now. Think about all these progressives. Think of all the progressives you know that were all pro-Bernie, right? And wanted money out of Wall Street, money out of politics, and they didn't want drone strikes, and they were against the wars, and blah, blah. They're all backing Hillary now. So where are their principles suddenly? So I would say those are really two parties right now, the progressives and the sort of mainstream Democrats. So I would love to see a couple more parties here. As I've said repeatedly, there is nothing in our Constitution that says we're only supposed to have two parties. They've tricked us into thinking that we're supposed to have some sort of duopoly here. And there's a reason that they both get a shitload of money from everybody. So the most important thing you can do, I think, is stop giving them money. Stop giving politicians money, period. You can do something better with your money. I'm sure you can find something better to do with your money.
Did Trump standing and pacing have an impact on the debate? And can Clinton supporters complain about intimidation?
In case you guys didn't catch that, did Trump pacing affect anything? And can Clinton's people claim about intimidation? There was something weird. Look, he's a lot bigger than her. He's 6 foot something. She's smaller, obviously. So there was something a little weird about the walking around. It never got to that point. You know, there's that great moment with Al Gore and George W. Bush, and Al just kept walking to him, and then Bush just like looks him away. It never got that weird, but just because of the difference in physicality and a little bit of the man-woman thing, it's just a reality. Sorry to be sexist or reverse sexist or whatever that was. You know, so because of some of that, I think that it could have appeared to be a little intimidating, but you know, it's not like he was gonna hit her or something. So it is what it is. I think that's just more on theater. Dave, you're always very negative about Hillary Rodham Clinton. Is there something you'd like? Is there something you like about her? Would she be a good president? Look, I don't really like her. I just don't, and I don't really like Trump either. But my sense is that if you just want more of the same, like we're all, I think because of the internet, so many people are waking up to how screwed up our system is, how our media is in bed with the politicians, how Hillary was in bed with the DNC to get rid of Bernie, how she's been for the Iraq war, she was for Libya, look what's happening in Syria. She was for all these things. So I do think Trump scores points when he says, you know, she's like, it's just words. He's like, it's just words. She's like, go to my website, see what I say. Yeah, it's just words. So look, I think if you just think everything's going okay, and you don't want that much change, and you're okay with a lot of the trends that we have, you know, the things that I see as very dangerous with social justice and trigger warnings and, you know, and dividing people based on everything, then I think you can vote with her in good conscience. I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I can see legitimate reasons, despite everything, really. I can see legitimate reasons to vote for both of them. If, you know, the immigration thing tonight, right? If you asked, there's this idea that if we do close our borders or something, or if we vet in a certain way, that this is based in racism. This is just silly. We know for a fact, ISIS tells us this, but our own CIA tells us this too, and FBI, that they want to send fighters in here. We know that that attacks all over the world, whether it's in Paris or Belgium or in Holland or in right here, if it's in San Bernardino or in Orlando or whatever, we know that there are people that want to come in here, and these lone wolves and sometimes bigger cells, and we know that they want to kill us. That is a different situation than we've had with immigration in the past. Do we trust our vetting system? I don't know. I don't even know. Nobody even really tells us about it. By the way, most of these people, they are vetted or they're on watch lists. The Orlando guy was on a watch list. The Bernardino guys were on watch lists. So we have to deal with real problems. So because we don't deal with real problems, then someone like Trump comes in and says, I'm going to build a wall. And then everyone says, well, fuck it. We better do a wall because we're not doing it any other way. I think there is a medium in there. But my point is that, if the people in Europe, if you could say to them, would you guys in Germany, you guys in Belgium, you guys in France and Greece and a bunch of the other countries, Holland, if you guys could roll it back 5 years and not allow the immigration to get to the levels it got to, and now you have all these problems with rapes and people fighting on the street and they have financial burdens and all this stuff, would you do it differently? I'm pretty sure most of them would say yes. It's a lot to do with why Brexit happened. So we have to have an honest debate about it before we make a decision, but clearly we're not in a place to have a real good, honest discussion about anything. But somehow that started with a question about, do I like anything about Hillary, and it came to that. So I wish I just trusted her more. I don't know. Look, I have voted Democrat in my life for every election. When people say Dave's not a liberal anymore, it's like, I voted Democrat for every single election. I voted for Obama twice, every local thing. I think the only time, if I'm not mistaken, the only time I can remember not voting Democrat was for Giuliani's third term after 9/11. I did vote for him. Or was it right before that? I'm blanking, but right around there, I did vote for Giuliani once. And he was a former Democrat, by the way. So the Democratic Party was a little more flexible mentally and not just doing so much shady shit. I really do. And that in no way is an endorsement of the right. It's just what it is. Okay, let's see.
This one's from Patreon.
Yeah.
What is the deal with Paul Ryan hating everything that Trump does but still supports him? Shows me that morals take a backseat to politics.
So what is the deal with Paul Ryan hating everything Trump does but still supporting him? So look, this is playing politics to the worst kind of thing. If you're Paul Ryan is a big Ayn Rand guy. He's really a libertarian at heart. He wants really limited government. He wants low taxes. I don't think he sees eye to eye with Trump on anything. But he's the head of the party. He's the head of the party. Basically, Trump is the nominee, and they're trying to, come to some détente so that they can move forward together. I think he's hedging his bets. All of these people are hedging their bets. I think all of these people yesterday that dropped out, McCain and all that whole crew of Republicans that dropped out yesterday, did these words suddenly make them say they can't support Trump? Or did they suddenly see a floodgate open and they thought, man, I got to jump off shit now before this thing sinks? Now, ironically, because Trump survived tonight and did okay, I think. I haven't seen what everyone's saying already. I'm only going off my own brain so far. But because of that, some of them may look silly. And if Trump wins, all well that Trump is going to make sure that there's hell to pay.
Why do you think Paul Ryan's a libertarian? A lot of people are disagreeing with you on that.
Why do I think Paul Ryan's a libertarian? I mean, I know he loves Ayn Rand and he talks about Atlas Shrugged a lot and Fountainhead and some other stuff. Am I mistaken on that? I think I don't think he's not a libertarian that he would say I'm a libertarian, but I think he has a lot of libertarian principles in him. But I can do a little more research on that. I've been known to be wrong once or twice.
Why do you think liberals ignore Bill Clinton's rape accusations? It's incredible to me.
Yeah, we got that one already. Liberals and the rape accusations. Why are they doing it?
Why isn't anyone talking about the fact Hillary wants a war with Russia?
So Hillary in the war with Russia, look, it's pretty obvious that there's something weird. I shot my direct message for this week's show. I shot it last week. I have Kathy Young on, who's a wonderful writer, and she gets shit from the people, the regressive left and the alt-right. I think you guys are gonna really dig it. And she was born in Russia, lived there till she was 16. And my direct message that I shot, which is from a couple days ago, I talked about how it seems obvious to me that over the next month, we're gonna hear more and more and more about Russia. And that the Democrats, it will play to the Democrats' advantage to become more hawkish on Russia because they want to pin it that somehow WikiLeaks, because WikiLeaks is damaging Hillary by releasing her emails and showing the shady shit she was doing with Wall Street and a bunch of, and you know, more with emails and connections and Clinton Foundation, all that, that the Democrats are becoming more hawkish on Russia. What's also interesting is that a lot of the Never Trump people were the neocons, and you can sense that some of them are going to vote for Hillary instead of Trump. So it is, I don't think we're going to be, as I say in the direct message, you'll see it on Wednesday, I don't think this means we're going to be in another Cold War with Russia necessarily, or certainly not a hot war, but we are sort of fighting a proxy war with them right now in Syria. And the question is, you know, who benefits from the hostilities? And right now the Democrats benefit from hostilities with them. And when you know the fact that, you know, Hillary was into the Iraq war, she was into the Libya war, and some other stuff, and has been okay with whatever it is that we're doing in Syria, which nobody seems to know, and there's 400,000 people dead in the last couple of years. You know, it seems that the Democrats benefit from it more than the Republicans do at the moment. All right, what else do we got here? So there were a couple other moments that I thought were good. You know, the question from the Muslim girl and talking about immigration, and I sort of addressed that already. But this is an important piece, and what Trump said is we want extreme vetting. So it's really about what do you believe the government is going to do? Do you want to just let people in? Do you trust that we're going to vet properly? I don't know. Do you? I'm curious. What do you guys think? I don't know that we can trust that the government knows what they're doing right now. They certainly didn't do it well in Europe. By the way, also WikiLeaks released an email from Hillary this week saying that she wanted open borders. So we have, these are real things. You know, they're showing on CNN right now when they both walked out, and it looked like maybe there was going to be a handshake, but then there wasn't. I didn't see if there was a handshake at the end. If someone could let me know in the comment section if there was one. Okay, let's see. What did you think about the last question about something nice about each other? You know, stuff like that. It's just silly, stupid stuff at the end. Hillary's answer, your kids are good. I mean, her kids relentlessly, especially Donald Trump Jr., relentlessly attacks Hillary. I think Eric Trump does it pretty significantly too. Ivanka's been a little bit above the fray in that regard. But, you know, it's a pretty safe answer. You know, what do you think about their kid? Yeah, the guy's evil. Hitler. But, you know, the kids are okay. So I thought that was fine. And I thought Trump's answer on that was she doesn't give up, basically, and that she fights hard. I think he actually probably does respect her for that, as much as he disagrees with everything about her and all that kind of stuff. I think he probably does agree with that.
There was a handshake?
There was a handshake at the end. So there was a handshake at the end. So that's good, I guess. I guess that's good. Let's see. What are they giving me here? I got a lot of stuff here. Moving things fast. Pacing and Trump. We did that. We'll scroll down and I'll scroll down and I'll find it.
From Patreon, how do you think Washington, Franklin, and Hancock would feel about the current election?
How do you think Washington, Hancock, and who? And Franklin would feel about the election?
Etc.
The election or the debates or whatever. I think they would be incredibly disappointed. Like, this is such horse shit. Have real debates. Talk really about liberty. Talk about the rights of the individual, to the right to pursue happiness. Talk about why not, I'm going to do this with, I was the one that signed the thing into this to spend this much money to do this, and I did this, and I'll do this. No, a good government is one that you don't have to talk about a lot. I tweeted something before that got a lot of retweets, something about that a good government, what was my tweet about taxes? It was something like, your government should spend less of your money. Not someone give it to me. I'm quoting myself and very poorly here. But that's what government. A good government, you wouldn't talk about it that much. I don't think that Clinton and Trump are the examples of a healthy government. Oh, here's what I said. I said we should all be for lower taxes. The government should waste less, not take more. I mean, we should be talking about whether you agree with me or not. Whether if you disagree with me, if you're a progressive and in here and you want to tax rich people at 75%, and you completely disagree with what I wrote, then we should be talking about that and we should be arguing about that. That would be completely fine with me. But we're not really talking about the ideas. We're talking about little nonsensical things. And also, you know, the bigger problem is that the debaters, you know, I've said this a bunch of times, but the debaters, the moderators keep jumping every time there's a you talk over someone, stop talking. You went too long. Stop. No, let them battle, and let's see what happens. That's what we need to do. By the way, for all the people that are like depressed about this or think how horrible this is or all this, I would say this, you know, so many people are engaged right now, maybe for all their own reasons, maybe because it's a shit show, maybe because of the pussy and this and that and all that other stuff. But you know what? People are engaged. And the thing is, if we would have had more people engaged for the last 20 years, we wouldn't have got to this point. So the key is that no matter what happens after November 8th, that we stay engaged. That's the most important thing, is that you got to stay engaged. And if you, whether Trump wins or Hillary wins, if you're sick of this, if you've had it with these people and this way of this bullshit that the media gives you. I'm watching Wolf Blitzer right now. The guy couldn't improv his way out of a wet paper bag. If you're sick of these generic people just spouting bullshit to you, then stay engaged. Make a YouTube show. You know, put stuff on Facebook. Fight for some truth to get out there, because the media is not going to give it to us. So in a way, that's my biggest fear with Hillary, is that the entire machine that we all see is such garbage now. Why would she change the machine? Because the machine wants her to win, obviously. Trump would have more of an incentive to try to change the machine, but by that token, you know, Trump, at the same, all these people that are saying Trump will be politically incorrect and he'll save free speech and all that. This is the guy that threatens to sue reporters. So we don't have great options here. We don't. And I know that's going to upset everybody, but that's the truth. From Patreon, being outside the U.S., Australia, the presidential race between these two deeply flawed candidates gives the impression that U.S. democracy is very broken. Is this the feeling within the United States? And if so, where will change come from? I think a lot of people feel like it's broken. You know, it's funny, like I say this all the time now, we have so much good going on here in this country. Most people in this country wake up and try to get to a job and get some food and hopefully have some sex and whatever. That's it. You know, you get to live your life and you have your free thoughts and you can fiddle around on social media and you can play video games and play sports, whatever it is. We don't have massive wars on our territory. We don't even have massive terrorism on our territory. We don't have, you know, there's so many things that are bad in other places where they don't have running water and they have much bigger wealth income disparagement than we have, even though ours is big. There's so much good here. By the way, there is also so much tolerance. You know, the media is only going to show you things when we hate each other. And they'll trick you into thinking that when a black cop shoots a black person, that somehow is about racism too. Because they want us all to hate each other. Because the more that we hate each other, the more they will click on their garbage, the more that we'll watch their nonsense, and the more that they can control us eventually. I don't want to control any of you. I want you to think for yourselves. And if you don't want to watch this anymore and you want to watch somebody else, go ahead. Good for you. But stay here. But the point is that it's pretty good here. And if you don't know that it's pretty good, I would say that anyone, whether you're in the United States or you're in Australia, come to New York City and ride around the New York City subway. And you will find every person of every color and religion and creed and ethnicity and sexuality and everything else there is. And we're all on there together. And guess what? Nobody looks happy. Nobody really wants to be there, but we're there and we're in peace and we're functioning together. And that's the sign of a good society. And we have to honor that and know that it's all screwy. It feels really screwy, but it's still pretty good here. And I wouldn't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. And that's what I think we'd have to watch out for. Let's see. Do you think that we need some philosophers in charge after all this garbage? A president that educates the people would be nice. You know, that's a really interesting idea. You know, I would say that, you know, in a lot of European countries, they have they have a king. Some of them have kings still. Or they have a president and a prime minister, meaning that there's a ceremonial thing. So the king or the queen is ceremonial, really. He doesn't have much real decision-making power. And then you've got, in most cases, it's the president of these countries that also is ceremonial. And then the prime minister is the one that's in effect, that's our president, right? So I think we could have something like that. The problem is that we're trying to make we're trying to make kings and queens with Trump and Clinton. They're only a third of the government. We have 3 branches of government. They're the executive branch, but that's only supposed to sign things into law. The legislative branch is supposed to write the laws. The judicial branch is supposed to make sure they're legal. They're a third of the government, but we spend all of our time worrying about this third. So I'm watching, I got the CNN panel here. They got 87 people. Look at this guy. So, like, worked for Trump, worked for Clinton, worked for Trump, worked for Clinton, worked for Clinton, used to work for Obama. It's such garbage. It's garbage. Know that that's garbage. Know that that's garbage, despite the fact, I'm not saying every single person on there is garbage, because there's a couple people that I think are decent. I think Jake Tapper really does try the best he can, knowing that he's surrounded by a lot of garbage. And you can tell, the look is in his eye the entire time. What are we laughing at? Oh, there's a giant picture. That's hilarious. There's a giant Wolf Blitzer head on a stick being floated around. That's the most animated that Wolf Blitzer has ever been. His head on a stick flying out there. Yeah, we got to find the funny in some of this. We got to not hate each other over this nonsense, you know, like that's the stuff. But don't watch these channels and think that they're going to tell you anything that's insightful or honest. Every single one of these people, do you think that David Axelrod, who worked for the Obama campaign, is going to tell you that Trump might have won that debate? Do you think that Jeffrey Lord, who's a Trump surrogate, is going to tell you, oh, Hillary might have won? It's all garbage. They're wasting your time and your brain cells by spending any time on that. That's why this is cool, because there are real people out there that want actually some real truth. It's not that hard. I don't think I'm doing rocket science here. I'm just telling you what I think. All right, let's see what else is going on here. So the idea of having philosophers in charge. The problem is that we've created this cult of personality to the point where what's good about having a queen, like a ceremonial thing, or a president and a prime minister, is two different things, is that you can get some of the pomp and circumstance and celebrity. There's Wolf's giant head right behind Gloria Borger. You can get some of the pomp and circumstance out with those, and then the prime minister, or whoever's actually supposed to lead the government, can be the actual leader, right, and do the leading. So to your question about philosophers, I would love that. If we had like some council of, not that they can make decisions per se, but that they could guide the decisions. You know, if you didn't see our show last week, we had Zoltan Istvan on, who's running as the transhumanist candidate for president. Obviously, very few people know about him. He's not going to get 1% of the vote. But his whole point is that there are so many future technologies between AI and gene splicing and being able to pick the traits of your children and chips that you'll implant in yourself to open doors and do all kinds of stuff, and genome and all that we have so many huge issues coming down the pipe that are just going to start coming faster and faster and faster, because technology is getting faster and faster and faster. And because of that, we better start addressing some of this stuff now. We better start having honest conversations about this stuff now, the ethics behind it, and what if the robots take over, and all kinds of stuff. So if we had a panel of philosophers or scientists or whatever that just were, they don't have to be official in any capacity that they're writing laws, but that would be advising the people writing laws in a really honest, functional way, I think that would be pretty great. I don't know that that's going to happen. All right,
let's see. Trump's side released the tape, or allowed it to be released to prevent Hillary's side from releasing it a week before the vote.
So did NBC release the tape? Wait, did NBC?
That Trump released it.
Right.
As a way to preempt her from releasing it.
To give them time to downplay it.
Do I think Trump released the tape so that it would get out now instead of a week before the election? I don't know that he would have access to the NBC tape, so I think that would be a bit of a conspiracy theory right there. The question is, what more is there? Because there probably is more, and so that's huge. Is there more? But also, as I said before, words and actions are two different things. I'm not excusing what he said. Do I want someone with, it's just a shitty situation. All right. Leader versus manager. These are important concepts. What do you think Trump is? What do you think Clinton is? What does our country need? That's interesting. Leader versus manager. So Trump, I think, would probably be, you know what, it's hard to say. Here's what I would say. Trump, I think, would be a manager in that he would delegate work. I don't know that he really likes to work. I think he likes to talk. I think he likes to sit on his golden chair. I think he likes to spray tan and probably has gout from all the rich foods he's eating. but I don't know that he wants to actually work. There were rumors that he at one point said to John Kasich, I think, be my VP, you can pretty much do the job, because he likes the ceremonial part of it. He likes the ego part of it. So I think in a certain way, he would be more of a manager. He would manage the people. But at the same time, he kind of would like being the supreme leader. I think we all know that. As for Hillary, from everything I've heard about her, she really does like getting input from people, and she's an extremely good delegator, and is able to manage people in a proper way to make things happen. Now, whether those decisions are good or not, we don't know. And by the way, for people that think I give Hillary more shit in that regard, she has a longer record of shit. One of the benefits you get when you haven't been in politics is that there isn't a record of your decisions related to political issues to knock. So, look, Obama didn't have a great record before. It's funny, like when Obama was running 8 years ago, people were like, he's young, he's fresh, he's whatever. And that's what all the liberals are saying. And now it's like, now they got like the 40-year stodgy, been a senator, been a first lady, been a secretary of state, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, experience matters. Didn't matter then, matters now. So everybody just changes and picks their side whenever they want to. From Patreon, what do you think about Julian Assange trolling everyone by saying he has a big leak at 3 a.m. and then just doing a fundraiser? What's going on with WikiLeaks? Do they have something that can take down Clinton? So here's the thing. I'm basically for, look, we might have state secrets that could be of such tantamount or such huge importance that it would not be good if the average person knew. That's just a sad reality. So the idea that governments can be completely open at every level whatsoever is just, that's just a utopian paradise that doesn't exist. That said, our government should not be spying on us, and our government should be more open. Obama said he was going to have the most transparent government in administration in history. I mean, you'd have to be an idiot to think that that's true. So the problem with Assange is that he obviously has a political motivation here because he leaks things out. He obviously doesn't like Hillary, and that's why Hillary is trying to pin Assange. She's trying to make it sound like the Russians have something to do with Assange, and that's why they're working together or working with Trump to stop her. She'd have to show great evidence of that to make it seem actually true. So I don't know. Look, I don't know what his motivation is, but it seems pretty clear to me that he's going to keep dropping shit. And the biggest risk that we have to worry about right now with both of these candidates, because they're both so flawed, but I think this one goes more to Hillary because she has a record in government, is that they could have information on her that not only could they wait till the day before the election to throw it up in flux, but they could drop it the day after the election. And that could be massively destructive at many levels. With Trump, it's like if there might be more that he said more horrible things and disgusting things about women or about minorities or whatever, and that would not be good. But it wouldn't be like a national security risk. But there is a potential that they have something on Hillary. But again, that's conjecture right there. So I don't know. I don't know what WikiLeaks' motivation is, but you can't just pretend they're just doing this for the good of transparency. They obviously have some sort of political motivation. Let's see. What did you think about Trump breaking with Pence on Syria and what this means for the Trump-Pence presidency if Trump wins? So it's funny, right after that, I immediately tweeted, I was just trying to tweet like some bold thing. It just hit me. It was like, Trump, because he's a showman, and I've watched The Celebrity Apprentice, believe it or not, that he could suddenly be like, you know what, Pence, you're gone either way. You didn't really back me these last 2 days. You dropped out of an event, blah, blah, blah. You're gone. I'm going to fire you. You're fired. And then because of that, so because of that, show me that again in just a second. Oh, okay. Thanks. So I thought maybe that would be the move, that you just drop him out of nowhere. You get the race back in flux. Everyone stops talking about pussy. You're good to go. Apparently, Mike Pence tweeted right after the debate, "Congrats to my running mate, real Donald Trump, on a big win. Proud to stand with you as we MAGA, make America great again." So I suspect I was probably wrong on that. The question, though, was about Trump and Pence on Syria. Look, in a lot of ways, Pence is more, if you're a liberal, if you're moderate, you're a Democrat that might vote for Trump, even if you're a sort of mainstream conservative, but not a Christian conservative or a far-right conservative, Pence is much more of a risk, I think, than Trump is in a lot of ways, because he comes from that Christian right, His abortion stuff is terrible. His gay rights stuff is terrible. I think that would be a huge problem. As for the Syria stuff, I think that they would come to some agreement on that. My personal belief on the Syria thing is that Obama did make a bad mistake. Obama said, I have a red line. They crossed the red line. Obama did nothing. Our allies then go, wait a minute, is this how things behave? And then our allies start wondering about us, and then our enemies are emboldened. So I would have not wanted, you can find video of me during that time, completely against any military action in Syria. When I was on TYT at the time, I was completely against it. Several of the hosts were for it. I was completely against it. And you can also find that I was completely against the kinetic military action that Hillary was for in Libya, which led to Benghazi. And now the the sad thing is, does anyone know what's going on in Libya right now? Is it a functioning state? We don't even talk about it, but we toppled Gaddafi, who was obviously a bad person. But so in Syria, I would be for creating some sort of humanitarian corridor there where it's just transferring people into some safe something. The problem is we don't know. It's very hard to tell what side we're on. And it's very hard to tell who our allies are. And you know what? Also, why can't other countries in the area do something? Why have all the Gulf countries closed the door to their Muslim brothers? Why hasn't Oman and United Arab Emirates and Qatar, these rich, Emma wants in on this, these rich countries, why haven't they done anything about this? She's very passionate about refugees. Actually, she was a rescue from Hurricane Katrina, so in a way, she's a refugee from New Orleans, I suppose. Why don't these countries do anything about it? They don't. So it's one of those things where it's like, if we do something, then people hate us, and if we don't do something, then people die. So it's a shitty situation that we're stuck in. All right, you know what? We're gonna do. You know what? I'm gonna do 20 minutes for a Patreon-only bonus for 20 minutes after this. So we're gonna wrap this thing up in 10 minutes, and then I'm gonna go live for patrons only for like 20 minutes or a half hour. So to remind you guys, we're a fully fan-funded show. I left the networks that I was at. We created a production company. I'm the head of a production company. We got to pay insurance and payroll and a whole bunch of other shit. I don't think I'm going to be able to write off the $915 million that Trump pulled off. But yeah, we are fan funded through you guys, and you've helped us build the show. And we've got a couple big announcements in the next couple of weeks that I'm very excited about. That we're going to sort of be changing how we do some things and expanding on a couple things. It's very cool. So you can go to patreon.com/Rubin Report right now, and we'll jump on Patreon a little bit, or RubinReport.com/donate. But I will finish up here, finish strong. So anyway, so look, at the end of the day, when you watch all of this stuff, as I now watch Paul Begala on CNN, and guess what? Paul Begala is the head. He's an advisor to a Hillary super PAC. I wonder, do you think he might be saying Hillary won? What do you think? He might just be. I think so. So these people are all fucking bullshit artists. So about the one loss thing, as I said earlier, Trump just had to survive. He just had to get through tonight because the wheels were really coming off this thing. By the way, you know, when you talk about just how the media frames everything, and how rough that becomes and how dishonest it becomes. Look, what he said was worthy of news, of course. But if you watched, I watched today. I did an hour and a half of cardio this morning, and I flipped through all the channels the entire time, virtually nonstop about Trump and the bus comments, and pretty much nothing on Hillary and the WikiLeaks stuff telling Wall Street that they could regulate themselves in effect, and the stuff about open borders and a bunch of that. So it's like, you have to be honest. Yes. Talking about open borders isn't as juicy as pussy, but you have to be honest. And we have to have a media that will touch both of these things. That sounded particularly whatever, but yeah, you have to. You have to call out both sides. We need a media to do that. We need a fourth estate to do that. And unfortunately, that's being levied on online people. You know, and it's a big job, but somebody's got to do it. And with great power comes great responsibility. All right, you know what? I'll take two more questions here. So if you guys want to fire off two more in the YouTube comment section, I'll take two more right now, and then we're going to move over to Patreon, patreon.com/Rubin Report. So we have one more of these things, and that's going to be interesting because now it's like, look, as I said, all you had to do was survive, and that's what he did. Now you get one more, and here we go. All right. Let's see, Dave, do you think it would be better for Trump to win because the Republicans are more likely to potentially impeach him than the Dems with Hillary? Do you see reform more likely under Trump or Hillary? You know, that's interesting, because the funny thing is that I think whichever one of these people win, I'm pretty sure there'll be a one-term president, because now we're so sick of the system no matter what, that I don't think the person would have the votes to stick around the second time, would be my suspicion. But you know, anything could happen. We could be at some war that causes, you know, wartime incumbent presidents always stay in. I don't know about impeachment, of course, right? Like, you'd have to really catch them on something. But yeah, if Trump wins, the Republican-controlled Congress, most likely they're not going to impeach him, because they're going to go, we're back in. Like, we're dealt back in. Our guy's in, and even if we didn't like Trump, we like a winner. So I think it would be more of a chance that they would try to impeach Hillary. But in terms of reform, who do I think would make more reform in government? I suspect that would be Trump. Now, that doesn't mean it would be good. But if you pick up these two people, well, Hillary's been around and in power forever. So, you know, and in the halls of power forever, if not directly making the decision. So would she change a lot? No, she's benefited a lot from it. Now, look, that's the irony of Trump, too, is that for all the stuff that he complains about, he's benefited from the system greatly. Now, some people that like him say that's his greatest strength, that he's going, wow, I've benefited from the system, but I see that it's crappy for other people, so I want to help them. I don't know if he's that altruistic, really. But in terms of who would really change the system more, I think it's pretty obvious that it would be Trump. Again, whether that change would be good or not would remain to be seen. Okay, so last one, and then we're going to jump over to, or we'll do two more real quick and then jump over to Patreon. So do you think Trump will be that more serious allegations will be leveled at Trump soon? Yeah, my guess is yeah. I don't, first off, you know, NBC News, when they dropped that tape, how long did they know about that tape? Did they drop it just because the WikiLeaks stuff came out about Hillary that same day? I mean, I suspect there will be more coming out about Trump. I heard some rumors today on Twitter, which I'm not going to repeat here because I'm not going to repeat rumors. But I suspect there is more. This guy has been on camera for a long time. He's a loose cannon that talks and speaks his mind. And I would suspect that you're going to find many more hot mic moments with him. And as I said before about the hot mic stuff, you know what? All of these people that are forget public people. All of you that are listening to this, that are watching this, I think everybody here says things privately to their spouse or to their friends or cousin or whatever, privately in their own home, that they don't say publicly. Doesn't mean you're saying gross and racist stuff, but you say things differently. You make jokes differently, whatever it is, and you're entitled to do that in the privacy of your own home. So I would be leery of just nailing everyone on these mic moments, but I have a feeling, yes, there is going to be more of it. And finally, what does it say that gay marriage, marijuana reform, etc., haven't been discussed? Look, the gay marriage thing, I'm glad it's not discussed because it's here. It's here, and it's the only way it could go away at this point is if a case got all the way back up to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court had flipped so significantly, which I suppose could happen if Trump was to put in people that he says he might put in, but that it would be flipped. I suspect that that's not going to happen. As for marijuana, legal marijuana, you know, it absolutely should be legal. As I said before, just on the medicinal side, forget what you think about marijuana, the drug. If you had any sort of disease, what right would I, if you were in pain, picture you in pain right now, you have shoulder pain. I'm not even talking about cancer or something, whatever. You have bad shoulder pain. When you don't want to take Advil, you don't want to take whatever, you don't like how it affects your liver, you don't want to take acetaminophen, okay? And you could take a puff of weed and your shoulder pain would go away. Guess what? It would be okay. I know people that have had cancer, that have cancer right now, that smoke weed. There are people with Parkinson's and epilepsy and AIDS and all of these things. What right do you have as a human being? Forget the government. What right do you have to tell someone else how they should be able to deal with their own pain? And as I said before, even removing the pain part from this, you know what? I'm having a beer right now. A beer is a drug. A beer is, people become addicted and die of alcoholism. They drive and kill people in cars, all kinds of things. Nobody has killed anyone because of marijuana. I have a marijuana license here in LA. And I don't even smoke that often, honestly. I smoke maybe twice a week, and I take one freaking puff and I'm good to go, and I watch repeats of The Simpsons. And what right does the government have to say, no, you can't do that? So that's why we talk about role of the government stuff more. Anyway, that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'm glad that people are engaged more than anything else. Stay engaged and keep talking about what you think is right, and don't be afraid to share your opinions and share things on Facebook and say things on Twitter, and watch the mainstream media with a curious eye and a questioning attitude, and that's it. So all right, I'm going to jump onto Patreon, so you guys can jump on there now. It's patreon.com/Rubin Report. We're fully fan funded. We appreciate what you guys are doing for us. And we'll do something live over there for a little bit, and that's it. We got one more of these, and then apparently we have an election. Although I would be for a meteor strike before then. All right, ciao.